We are back, and it's time to talk some Gulfstream Park and that championship meet. And before we get into anything else, we got to welcome back and say hello to my friend Barry Spears, the sniper. Barry, buddy, it's been a crazy few weeks for you. You had a real health scare, but you're feeling good. Happy to have you back here talking some races with us, man. Tell everybody how you're feeling.
I'm feeling great, especially now. Getting back on here with you, it just gives me more of a sense of normalcy. Like everything's kind of back together. I know I had to make some, kind of lifestyle changes, just in order to kind of get through this, which is cool. My life definitely changed from that event, but things are getting back to normal. I'm very strong, getting healthy. Gonna get out tomorrow and Saturday for a little bit. So things are looking up. I'm just ready to get back and start picking winners and doing what I do best.
And a great way to bring you back is to talk some Gulfstream Park. Your neck of the woods, the place that you
Right.
know that you're always looking at. We've got some good races now with the championship meet that opened up last weekend, and we'll be diving into those daily racing form past performances. And DRF has the section for Gulfstream Park every racing day, past performances, DRF picks, and they can also help you out if you ever need help with the clocker reports, and you're going to need help at Gulfstream Park with clocker reports for first-time starters, surface switches. They've got 3 different surfaces over there. Horses coming off long layoffs that are primed for this meet, that are getting ready to start their year, maybe horses that have been off for a while. So you need any extra help, DRF has you covered every racing day of the Gulfstream Park meet. And our friends at Stable Duel have Gulfstream Park contest all the time, different formats, different amounts that you can get your entries in. Barry and I are going to always try to give you some prices. So I've got a few for Friday. I think we both have 3 for Friday, and I think we both have like 3 for Saturday. So we'll do our best if we can enter the no chalk zone right now and look for some prices. Sniper, you are going to kick us off on Friday. I'm towards the back part of the card. I'm in races 6, 8, and 9. You are looking at races 2, 5, and 9. So Friday, December the 8th, race number 2. Take it away, my friend.
Yeah, race number 2 is a claimer for fillies. 12,500 non-winners of 2, going 6 on the main track. Um, I thought this was a good race to attack because I'm really not fond of the horses that probably will get bet in here. The 2, Megan making money, uh, tends to quit. I mean, if you look at that horse's
Yep.
past performances, every time he gets out in the lead, gets out in the lead and stops. Ran on to break the maiden on November 3rd on the Tapeta. But this race is a lot tougher than that one. And 2-1 on that kind of horse in this kind of race is just not something I would want to do. Same
No.
thing with Greek Mojo. Uh, this the same sort of deal. Kind of gets out there, wings it a little bit, and then kind of falls short. Dropped in class last time, was close to being favored at 2-1, and just didn't run. I mean, I like Louis Saez and all, but I don't know if he can turn that ship the right way. So leaving that open, especially with them both being kind of speed horses, I went to number 4, Martha May Huvier or
Oh,
Huvier.
this is I can tell you I know this one because this is
You know the
Christmas
angle.
time right now. Well, this is Martha May Huvier. This is from The Grinch. This is the character
Yes,
from The Grinch. So I know my Who's, all the Who's down in Whoville. I'm a fan of that Grinch. Talk
man.
to us about Martha.
Oh, yeah, have you started wearing your Christmas
Yeah,
shirts yet?
and I'll start popping them up because I haven't done as many. We're doing a lot. I've done a lot more audio stuff, but now in the next few weeks, I'll pop up
Yeah.
some ones on the video because I got some of the goofy hats. Even today, as we record on Thursday, it was Inside Out day at Milo's school. So I went inside out. I turned the Santa hat inside out, and one of the teachers, it was really funny, said, "Oh, I think your hat's on the wrong way. You flipped the pom pom." I said, "Yeah, no, I did Inside Out with the kids." And she started laughing. She's like, "I didn't even put 2 and 2 together." I was like, "Yep, I got you."
Uh,
So, yeah. So, yeah, always got to rock the Christmas stuff. Talk to us about Martha.
yeah, I thought Martha had ran a pretty nice race off the layoff. I know she took some time to break the maiden, broke it in August, and then got laid off for a little while, and came back as quote unquote running. I like that line in a race, against winners for the first time.
Yep.
Now, I don't believe that she's going to outright need the lead, but it wouldn't surprise me if she actually gets the lead here. Um, I wouldn't want to tussle with Megan making money, but if they do, it wouldn't bother me because I know she stops. Um,
And you're
but
drawn to the
if this was
outside of
the
her,
right,
right? So you can, and you're
right, all
cutting
the speed
back
inside.
from 6.5 second off. So you should be able to kind of like that two back trip, right? The trip that she broke her maiden,
Mhm.
where she can sit off a little bit and then move early if she has to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can even see on June 16th on the main track in that maiden race, she kind of came off the pace a little bit, ran a great
Yep.
race as the favorite that day. Um, so you kind of figured this horse was going to break the maiden really soon after that effort, and she certainly did. So I think this race sets up really well. The others, they're kind of dropping down, but they're kind of just dead closers. The five Sweet Sensation, she's spiteful, and they haven't been out in the wild either. Um, it's tough because a horse like She's Spiteful actually really caught my eye at the price. But what also caught my eye is the trainers 0 for 43 on the year.
Yeah.
They're due eventually, but I just don't think this is the spot. And Upstreet, it's kind of like you don't really know what kind of horse that is. I mean, what's this horse going to do here? Are they going to go to lead? Probably not. Are they going to take back? Who knows? I mean, that's just a mystery horse there, and I just couldn't bet that one with confidence. So I ended up on number 4. I think this one's a good play.
Barry is on the number 4. Martha May Huvier, 6-1 on the morning line. Second start off the short little break. Speed can sit off the pace just a bit if need be. Let's see if we can get you that nice price of around 6-1. And you are going to also go to race number 5 before I jump in race number 6. So as we look at Friday and the DRF past performances, you're going to go to the 5th race. You'll go to the synthetic here, going a mile and a 16th. Uh-oh, Barry, are you there? Couldn't hear you for the last second or two.
Nope, I'm here.
Okay, there we
Yeah,
go.
I think you
Okay.
faded out real quick.
Okay, there we go.
Yep,
Yeah,
I'm
so
still
you're up
here.
for race number 5. Talk to us
Yeah,
about the 5th.
this yep, it's a Tapita special, as I like to call it. $10,000 claimer, going a mile and 16th on the synthetic. This race is kind of a weird one. And the horse I selected was basically by attrition. Nobody else looked good, and not
Yeah.
in this spot, especially the favorite. I mean, the favorite's tough to take here. It's 7-5. I understand the drop in class, but why? The horse doesn't seem to be in bad form or anything. Why this spot? It just doesn't make any sense. And usually that's the red flag. If I see that, I'm kind of wanting to bet against a horse like this. I ended up on number 8, Doobie Doobie. Um, and this horse has a race back in October of 2022 when the synthetic was kind of new that easily would win this race. Easily. And I think the last couple of races for this horse since off the layoff since July, they kind of wanted to point this direction this winter, it looks like. Comparatively, there's some speed on the inside with the one, just in time for wine. Watch the Music has some zip. And I think those two and Wicked Surprise might end up tangling a little bit. And even Grand Soiree might be up there, kind of mixing it up. And that leaves Doobie Doobie in the right spot with the good jock. I think Bravo's been riding very, very well since he's came over to Gulfstream a few weeks ago. And this is just the prime spot. If you can just look at the progression on how this horse came out of that last Tapita race, um, he had back in November of 2022. They stepped the horse up to 16,000. Doesn't run bad, but it's clear that that is not the spot for this horse or the turf. Ran another good race at Gulfstream in March, then got laid off. Something must have went amiss. Then loses to Just in Time for Wine, which people are going to look at and think, oh, well, this horse already got thumped pretty bad by this one. But then That was on the turf at Monmouth. This is synthetic at Gulfstream, a whole
In a
different
race
animal.
where Just
And
in
this
Time
horse,
for Wine was able to get loose on the front end.
correct, in a
Right.
very slow pace. It wasn't even, it wasn't even an issue, and that horse just wired that field. Then you go to the two 12-5 races, which weren't that great. But then the little wake up happens at the Meadowlands, and that's the key, because you can almost see it's like a bell curve sort of, where the horse was in form, out of form, and then now
Rounding back
this
in.
is back on the upswing. Right. And those things combined with the speed being inside, Bravo riding well, we're gonna give Doobie Doobie a shot.
It's always weird to me too when I look in a race like this and you feel like when a barn has the heavy favorite and another horse, it may not. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's nothing because you have separate owners, and this might just be the right spot for these two separate horses. But I always feel like if you really like I would at least. I know, and I'm different, so I'm not. But if I had a horse I really liked and another horse that I didn't think was quite as good and couldn't win, I would try to separate the horses. I would try to win as many races
Right.
as I could, if possible. And I know it's not always possible. So I'm with you. I think the favorites are vulnerable in this race. A good race to attack. The number 8, W, hoping to get a W for Barry, 6-1 on the morning line there. So a couple of 6-1 shots for you right off the bat for Barry with his first two plays. Let me take over for race number 6 as we move right next door on Friday, taking a look at these daily racing form past performances. And I'm going to go to a 5 furlong turf sprint for 2-year-old maiden special weight. It's just a really tough, challenging race here. The horse I'm going to go to is the number 11, Dazzling Move, who's actually run well twice already up at Woodbine on the synthetic. So some positives to look at. We know she's already got some early speed. Both of those races aren't bad. And in particular, I like to look at the company she faced in those races. So we can look at in this debut race, she was behind a horse named With Water and Sand, who won that race, came back to finish third in a stakes race next out, and then came back to win the grade 3 Mazarine. So a very nice horse that she was behind in the debut. The runner up that day is a horse named A Little Frisky, who beat With Water and Sand in that stakes race second time out. So she lost. She was behind two stakes winners, the fourth place finisher in this race. I gave out last week. This horse is named Inundation. This horse won a stakes race at 12-1 on November the 25th up at Woodbine. So the first, second, and fourth place finishers from this race are all stakes winners. Now, one of them is a graded stakes winner. So that's a pretty strong race, that September 1st race. And then the October 7th race, it's that same horse, Inundation, who I mentioned, who's a stakes winner, was the runner-up. Sounds practical. The winner is a horse who came back and took a shot, in a stakes race and was setting the pace that day too. So she just has faced pretty tough company in those two races, going a little bit longer. She's flash speed in both of those. I like the fact that she's come down to Gulfstream Park now. She's got a few works over here, and now she's going to try the turf. And while her dam never turfed, her dam was a solid overall, lightly raced. But there were two siblings that tried the grass. One of them won on it, and the other one was only 0 for 2. So it's really tough to get a feel for the fact that this horse didn't like the grass. So, yeah, I think there's like a little turf here in the pedigree. We've got two races that are strong up at Woodbine, going a little bit farther. So should have plenty of fitness on the cutback, has enough early speed to stay with this group. I think from the outside draw, she could be able to sit just off a little bit in here and have a little fitness. I like her in this spot, Barry. The number 11, Dazzling Move, is 8-1 on the morning line.
Yeah, these are great spots where you can kind of get early in the meet than later,
Yep. Yeah,
where you can
exactly.
get these vulnerable favorites, and this is a perfect situation, where you have a horse that has some experience in a good barn, and they're making the right move, as I like to call it, where they're going to the turf. It seems almost
Yep.
logical that that's where this horse will end up, and I like this pick.
Got some foundation there. I think Dazzling Move makes a lot of sense in here at 8-1. So that's race number 6 on Friday as Barry and I continue on. I'm going to the 8th race. You're going to go, and then we'll both finish up in the 9th race. So race number 8 is a $25,000 claimer going 7 on the dirt. It's a restricted claimer. And I thought the 3, China, just overall a horse that I like to be able to go race by race, and it all kind of makes sense to me.
Sure.
So you see a career debut going 5.5 on the synthetic, had a little bit of trouble that day, but not a bad effort at all. Comes back, and the only race that she's ever been on the dirt was against maiden specials, and she has legitimate trouble that day. They drop her down in class, and she kind of figures out where she fits. She's a good third. She comes back, she breaks her maiden. Then they go a little bit longer, and now we can sort of get more of a body of work. I think looking at her 3 races going long, it just looks like they're a little too far for her. The mile and a 16th. She's just a little short every time she's gone a mile and a 16th, mile and a 16th. She set the pace and she fades. Doesn't run poorly, just looks like she tires. September 30th, she's in against 50 claimers. That's probably a little tough, but she was actually favored that day. The race came back very strong and she had legitimate trouble. Now she's in like a really good spot. 7 furlongs at this level for her actually makes a whole lot of sense. And if we're just looking at speed figures, she actually has the best last out speed figure. Like the best last out buyer for a horse who's 8-1 on the morning line. And if you're looking at like just overall speed figures, her last 4 races, she's got like a 71 and a 75. In comparison with the rest of the field, that's very, very strong. I don't think there's any concern with her, like on the dirt. Her dam, you can take a quick look and see, like her dam was a dirt winner and actually won early on the dirt and was stakes placed in the second start and then took a shot in a bunch of stakes races. So, yeah, I think she's kind of interesting. She's the first foal from that dam. And I think it's too soon to say this horse can't run on the dirt. And I think she fits at the level, Barry. She fits with speed figures. And I think at 7 furlongs, she fits really well too. And she's another 8-1 shot in here.
Yeah, the cutback I like a lot because that really gets a horse fit for these kind of 7 furlong tricky distance events. And none of these horses are crack horses at this distance. I
No.
mean, you have the 5 who's a favorite kind of dropping down, but that one doesn't really make all that much sense in here. And people are going to see those 2 races where, she kind of ran off a little bit and won and gravitate to that. Plus the fact you have nondescript connections with the 3,
Yeah.
it's going to raise the price. And
Yep.
this is what I would call a good, kind of off center long shot kind of play.
There's the second of my 8-1 shots. And we'll both finish up Friday in race number 9, going a mile and a 16th on the turf course here. Talk to us, my friend. Where do you want to head in race number 9?
Yeah, we're going to throw one downfield here. I went with number 5, Red Flag Alert.
That's so
Um,
funny. I picked a different horse, and I took a long look at this horse, and I almost ended up here. I didn't, and I'll talk about mine in a minute. But this horse is very live. Sell us on Red Flag Alert.
yeah, people are going to look at this horse and be like, oh, well, he doesn't really have the numbers. But if you go back to last year around this time, this horse is running really, really well on the turf. Kind of got lost at Churchill when they took the Claiming Crown Emerald off the turf and was on the slop. If you put a line through that one, this horse makes a lot of sense. Just that one line. And you see the progression. This horse, at least on the page, will start in July 2022. Horse is right there every time. You know, at better races than what she's probably going or what he's probably going to face on Friday. Um, then they step the horse up a little bit, kind of going into that tougher optional claimer because you'll get more, kind of stakes types and than the straight one other than allowance races. Then kind of tails off. You can see it. Like, they ran her on the dirt, ran him on the dirt at Hawthorne. Didn't run all that badly. Came to Gulfstream, ran at 7.5 on the turf at a similar level, and runs pretty well. And the thing that I like is this horse is probably going to be forwardly placed. I don't think this pace in this race is going to be all that swift. And if this horse can get good position early, I think this one's going to be a monster in the lane, because this looks like this was the plan all along. They tried to bring the horse back on the turf in August, didn't work out. It was rained off. Then came down here and they didn't have turf, and had to run him on the synthetic. Ran it last time at this level, switched to the turf. All indicators say this horse is sitting on a nice race.
Red flag alert, 15-1 on the morning line. I'm going to be right next door with a 15-1 shot right next door to you, Sambaru. So if we look at, again, I'm looking at the races that he's exiting. They are a lot tougher than this race that he's in. And what's very interesting about them, let's look at the chart from his last race. He lost to a horse named Tiz Romantic. What do you see that jumps out? Tiz Romantic went wire to wire. So there's no passing in this race. He loses to a wire to wire winner. Okay, tough for him to make up any ground there. Let's go back and see what happened in his last race. Like, I'm always willing to excuse horses that lose to a wire to wire winner. If there's no pace for a horse like this, he doesn't have a shot. October the 21st, I remember this day. A lot of people had this horse who was like 45-1 at Keeneland in a race where there wasn't all that much speed. Zumbi went wire to wire. So now we're looking at his last two races. He chased lone speed, wire to wire winners, didn't have a shot. Before that, he's running in first level, and he's in first and second level allowance races. Like, before that, he's against Cash Equity, who's grade 2 placed. Twist is grade 2 placed. Fast Buck is a graded stakes winner. These are way tougher fields. Even look at last year or earlier this year in January and February at Gulfstream. Like, he's only beaten a couple lengths against a lot better, legitimate allowance races. And I think it's just because he came in from overseas and he didn't get disgraced in those first few races. So they didn't want to drop him quite yet. They kept giving him a shot. Another thing that stands out is that every time he would have a race or two, he'd have to go off for a few months. This will actually be the first time since he's come to the U.S. that he's putting 3 starts together. He could be set for the best race in his form cycle. He's getting back to long on the turf, where we've seen some bang-up races from him. He was only beaten a length and a quarter and 2 lengths here at Gulfstream last year with an 87 Beyer speed figure that would really play well in this race. The key is he in the good form right now, and will he get the type of trip? But I think he can fit with this class level very well, Barry, and because of all these hidden races, I think his form is a little muddied up and buried, and he's for connections, again, we're not talking about monster connections where this horse is going to get bet down.
Right. This horse is going to get not much attention, and that's a great thing. I mean, this is why this time of year at Gulfstream is so great, because you get these kind of competitive fields where you can dig a little bit and find some gems at big prices, and that's what we want to do.
Yep, and we both handed you 15-1 shots. If you're betting these races, trifectas, exactas, you play horses to win, or if you're a pick 4, pick 5 player, which a lot of people are, these are the types of horses where you throw them in your ticket. It costs you a few extra bucks to use them, but it can really, really reward you. And if you're playing your stable dual lineups, these are the types of horses that don't cost you anything to throw into your lineup. And then you can really spend up in some of the other races where you have a stronger opinion, or you want to maybe key in on one of the shorter priced horses. So yeah, bombs away on Friday. We've got some nice prices on Friday, my friend. So, I was thinking about this a minute ago when we said at the beginning, as I get ready to pull up Saturday, some of the folks out there may not even have known what you've been dealing with. As much as you're willing to and comfortable with sharing with everyone, kind of tell us what you've been, what happened the last couple of weeks, and what you're recovering from right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess I could say the whole story. I went to Tampa Bay Downs on opening day. Had a great time. Went to Disney that night with my daughter, and then on Thanksgiving morning, less than 24 hours later, apparently I had a heart attack, and it really took me by surprise because I didn't know I was even at risk for anything like that. Um, and I didn't know what it was. I got a real burning sensation in my chest, and I just didn't know what was going on. I tried to kind of walk it off like a basketball or baseball injury or something, and it wasn't going away. And I had, we called the paramedics. I walked out of my house, the front door, into the ambulance, and we didn't really leave right away. They took pictures of my heart and everything, and were like, "Yep, you're having a heart attack. Let's go." And then we drove off, and they gave me that nitroglycerin, and I felt 1,000% better. And that's when they knew for sure, what was going on. Got the surgery the next
Oh
day.
man.
Was home. I got home on Saturday afternoon. Saturday night, blood pressure medication was too strong. I get up to use the restroom, blackout. My daughter finds me on the floor with a busted eye. I needed 5 stitches there.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
my arm was severely bruised because I hit this screen in front of the fireplace with my arm, and then I banged my chin after all that. So I kind of bumped two things, I think, and I had a real nice bruise on my chin and a big shiner that kind of migrated over to both eyeballs, but almost healed. The black eyes are gone. I still got a nice little bruise on my leg from the surgery and on my arm, but I'm glad to be here still, being able to do this with you, and just thankful everybody for the support. When I told people what was going on, it's just unreal. I'm still outreaching to people, thanking them, for contacting me, and it's been great. This is why I love horse racing, because everybody is together. It's a family. From the person that contributes the least to the person that contributes the most. When things go bad, this group sticks together, and I appreciate it.
Man, this was a scary few weeks. I was lucky to be able to talk with you a lot of the days, just texting to see how you were doing. But man, happy to have you back. We're taking it nice and slow with you too, and we're going at a good pace. So, and we're taking it easy. But like you said, when that happens and then you're doing nothing for a while, it's nice to be able to get back to doing some of the things that you were doing before. So you feel a little normal, right? You feel like you're back in your groove. And with
Absolutely.
Gulfstream, yeah, with Gulfstream Park here, man, we love you, and I'm so glad that you're back here and hanging out with us. And I know Chuck and everybody over at on Big Mondays going in circles. They're very happy. Give us a plug on that before we jump on into Saturday.
Yep. Big Mondays, Going in Circles podcast. Me and Chuck Simon chop it up. We cover, a lot of the issues in racing in a candid fashion that maybe some people aren't able to. We're not really connected to too many things in the industry, so we can kind of speak freely on a lot of subjects. And that's what we want to do, is we want to bring the real stuff to everybody, and we talk a little hoops. So yeah, it's a good time. You should check it out every Monday.
Great, great racing talk, more than just handicapping, talking about all the hot topics, positive stuff, negative stuff, anything going on. Not ever afraid to discuss anything in the world of racing there, or sports, or whatever's going on with Big Mondays with Chuck and with Barry. Okay, we're gonna go to Gulfstream Park for Saturday now. We got a few plays each for a nice Saturday of racing at Gulfstream Park. And then, man, in the next few weeks, it's only a couple weeks away from Santa Anita opening up. And then that'll be a nice kind of consistent. So you'll have Santa Anita, Tampa, Gulfstream Park, Oaklawn's opening up this weekend. We'll get a lot of these big tracks. We just had Turfway open up. Fairgrounds has been underway for just a little bit. So we're really getting into the good racing right now as some of these tracks are under full swing. You're going to start in race number 2. I'm going to start in race number 2. So why don't you lead the way, my friend?
Uh-oh,
Talk to us about
uh-oh.
how you're looking at. Do we land on the same one? Let's see. Where do you go?
I got a feeling we might. I got a feeling we might have landed on the same horse. This is an interesting race because you got these young horses kind of, not young, but they don't
Lightning
have too
rate.
many
Yeah,
races under
yeah,
their belt, especially
yeah.
like one. Yeah. Omni King really kind of fools me here because I want to like this horse, but it just looks like one of those horses that'll get out to the lead and kind of fizzle. I like horses that actually have been running at sort of in better races, and I ended up on number 4, Blame the Good Times. Um, you can throw out that last race. The horse was way out wide, never really had a shot. Um, but if you look previous to that, if you take out the Tapeta effort on December 18th, 2022, you take that race right out, this horse stacks up against anybody. A horse on the upswing before the layoff. Probably needed that race to kind of get back on the track because the
And was
horse
wide
didn't run
and just
since
got the fit,
January.
just get the
Right,
fitness out of it, right?
right. And now reported first time gelding. So that might make a difference too. But I also like the work pattern. Was at Churchill, then comes here November 20th to Palm Meadows, has a nice work on the dirt there, works on the grass one time, which is encouraging, and then does it again in a better fashion. This horse should be sitting on a really good race. I don't expect this pace to be super hot, although there is some speed with the 5 Frito, the inside horse Omni King, and probably the 9 will have to go. The 10 is probably going to go, but I still don't think they're going to go that fast. And
It's kind of
being
honest.
where this horse, yeah, where this horse is going to probably be positioned is going to be right behind that speed, and I think that's going to be the perfect place because you don't really see too many horses launching from way too far back on any of these surfaces other than the synthetic at Gulfstream. The main track kind of plays, you know, to speed, and the turf course kind of does too. You don't want to be too far back because you want to be about, maybe 2 or 3 lengths from the lead at the top of the stretch. This horse should get that trip.
Barry's on the 12-1. Blame the Good Times, the number 4. I'm going to go to the number 7 here, Headline News, who I think is going to be a little under the radar because he has a couple races like at Pimlico and Laurel, and I think he may get dismissed because of that. But, I watched all 3 of these horses' races, and he's got some ability. He's a little sneaky. So his debut, he was 5th early on, and he was kind of in between horses in a tough spot, and he really closed well. He just missed 3rd. He had some nice late energy. You could sort of see in the running line that like he's picking up some pieces. It was a good effort to build off of. Problem is then on July the 7th at Belmont Park, he has just a kind of a wideish trip, and then he's off for a few months after it, and it's going a little farther at 1.25 miles. So I think he can put just a line right through it. He got bet that day. He was only 7-2 in that race. He's off for a few months. He comes back on October the 26th at Laurel Park. Visually, just kind of watching the race, I thought he showed he's got some ability. So he's the number 13 in this race that we're going to watch, and he's kind of like he's wide in a race and like with a trip that I just don't normally see running well and winning on the grass. So he's way out wide. It's a fine start, and he's kind of gonna try to pick where he wants. But normally, Barry, when you're sitting that like 3 deep or out, 4 wide trip, that's like a dirt trip. That's not usually a turf trip when you're wide like that, giving up all the ground. And this horse was in like the 3 path and then out in the 4 path for the bulk of this race.
Man, he's wide. He's really
Yeah.
wide.
Yeah. And it's not even like he's wide just off the leaders either, where you kind of just fall into the wind sometimes. Like he's mid pack and wide, and he just stays like out there through like the bulk of this race. Like he's just always traveling well too. And when he's asked, so now he kind of moves in between right here, and then he's gonna kind of tip to the out, and he just always travels well. And when he starts to pick up his piece, starts to pick up the pieces. So here he comes right now. He's in like the fifth spot, and you can just he just looks like he's full of run. And it's funny because like I was watching this race the first time, and I'm like, they're not going that
Yep.
fast in this race early. Like this horse is gonna get him. And when he just tips to the outside, like right here in the clear, he like inhales this field like pretty quickly, goes from a few lengths off to just a few shaking up a few times, just kind of straighten him out. I think this horse has got some real ability here, and he's bred to be like a very nice horse too. And I think because the win came at Laurel and the other race at Pimlico before that, maybe he gets a little overlooked in this spot. But I think this horse has some ability, Barry.
Oh yeah, that's a telltale sign. I mean, that's just great use of the tools here in Formulator with the replay, because that was an easy victory, and the horse was in hand the whole time, was never looking like a loser despite the trip.
Yeah.
There's got to be said, something to be said for that, especially coming into a first level kind of optional claimer. This is probably the right spot. I think we gave him the exacta.
Yeah. Let's get it home. 4-7, baby. Shout out to my Nanu. Those were his numbers. My mom was 1-3-5s. She plays those. My Nanu was a 4-7 numbers player all the time. He'd box those exactas. Let's see if we can get one home for you here.
My grandmother and grandfather, 1276.
Oh, okay. Okay.
1276.
There we go. Um, let's both head to race number 7, where I've got to throw one big downfield. Talk to us about who you're looking at in race number 7 here.
Uh-oh.
These are races like these are my favorite races of the Gulfstream Park meet. These types, because it's a race like this where you do find a horse that might be a Kentucky Derby horse in these first level allowance races just like this. These optional 75s going like a mile. You'll see some of them in like a month or two, like a mile and an eighth, as kind of like disguised prep races for horses that are trying to figure out where they stack up with some other good ones. These are my favorite races to dive into. How do you see this one playing out, and who's on your radar here?
Yeah, I think we got horses like Cyclone Mischief out of races like this at Gulfstream last year.
Or
But
was in a race
like you
like this
said,
a few
these
years
these
ago,
are
like early in
yes,
January.
that's right,
Yep.
and kind of progressed and ended up being the Derby winner. So
Yep.
these are races that you can get prices too, because people are going to look for the big connections to have that big horse. And this is a really, really tough race. You have C Streak and Catalytic, who are probably going to take a bulk of the action because of the connections.
Yep.
Now the problem is these horses have some speed, and
Yep.
you know I don't think they're going to try to compromise that. And you have other speed with the one.
And they're both
You
stretching
have
out.
right, and they're doing something they've never done before. They may not even be able to get the distance, or at least not now. This is the time to get them beat. The one has some speed, the two has some speed, the three
Yep.
has some speed. So I ended up on number 5, Chisparajos, and I like the comeback race. If again, take out that Kentucky Downs race. The horse was on the inside and got buried and had no chance. Probably didn't even want to go on turf anyway. But I've seen Fausto Gutierrez do this with other horses. Come off the layoff at a longer distance and they run well, and then there's another jump up. And this horse ran a kind of comparable speed figure to what he was doing before the layoff. So that one at Belterra, that is an indicator of what kind of horse you're dealing with.
And
And when you
that was
see
a
that
race where
number,
like he's the best horse, so they just put him on the lead. He's not going to be on the
right?
lead in here. He's sitting in this race.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's exactly what I want him to do. If this horse runs the same race he did on November 9th at Indiana, I know that was 2 turns, this is one, but that kind of effort will win this race because I think there's going to be enough speed, and these younger horses tend to quit until they
We
have the proper foundation.
we handicapped this race exactly the same, almost identical, and just use different horses, but the same things we're looking for. Even the point about like the connections, this time of the year, this type of the race where people may be looking for horses that, like, just like I said, you might be looking for a Derby horse or something like that in a race like this. I'm looking for the winner of the race and how it shapes up. And I think the horse that I landed on was Mugatu. And so
Yeah,
let's
that's what
get
I
through him
figured.
a little bit. Yeah, and what's funny about him is like, so he's only run once on the dirt. That was in his career debut. He just missed the break, but he got action that day at Ellis Park. Following that, they stretch him out on the turf, and he shows speed a couple times on the grass. He runs really well in the two races at Ellis, off for a little bit, goes to Keeneland on October 12th. Look at this race that he runs in at Keeneland. It's a loaded race. He was one of three next out winners, and one of those horses was a horse named Real Men Violin, who came back and was second in the Kentucky Jockey Club. So a graded stakes placed horse. Edgartown came back to win a maiden special weight there. So strong race. He was one of three next out winners that day on the grass. The real key for me, though, on the synthetic on November 18th, completely different change of tactics, right? They decide, let's take back. It's not even like they were going really, really fast that day. They were going slow. They went 50 to the half mile. And this horse, they just decided different tactics this day. Let's sit. And the reason why I wanted to watch the race too, because it was another like really impressive race. And it kind of shows you why I got to this horse. But so this is now his second start off the bench. Mugatu is the number 8 that we're watching here. And this is on the synthetic, and this is going a mile. So he has foundation going a mile. He has a bunch of races going a mile now, and he's won from off the pace. He's the 8 in the yellow silks. So you see him, he's kind of in that like middle part. But again, a horse who's really wide. He's 4 wide going into the turn. He's going to sort of settle towards the rear here, but kind of pick a spot in the middle. And he kind of just gradually keeps working his way up on the outside. But again, he's way out there. He's at least 3 deep this entire race and will gradually move himself up to 4 deep. But this is the kind of trip in this race exactly, Barry, that could win this race.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what's really strange too is they put the blinkers on this horse last time and took him back. You don't really see that often.
No,
Usually they put the blinkers on and the horse wants to go, and instead it had the opposite effect. It looks like, and it looked like it kind of chilled the horse out, and
exactly.
and
It gave
and
him
this
just a
horse
little
was able
more.
to settle and run a really good race.
Yeah, and it gave him just like a little bit more focus and not just as runoff, because the blinkers will do that. Like they'll get a lot of time speed and focus too, but like you're saying, we always kind of assume forwardly placed. This horse is so wide, even here, like top of the lane, has to go way out wide. But when they straighten up, and you kind of keep expecting the horse to stop, but they straighten up and he just keeps going. And I know that on speed figures, he's light compared to the rest of this field, but I honestly think we found the 2 closers in the race, right? Like we have like it might be a situation where the
Right.
1, the 2, the 3 are all going. The 4 is a closer also, but my concern is this horse's only good race was on the slop. That's why I had a problem kind of getting here with this one. So, you know, the 5 can
Mhm.
sit. The 6 wants to go. The 7's going to have to try to go stretching out. We have the horses that are proven sitting off the pace a little bit, going a mile.
Yeah, and Angler is really sharp. I've been watching a lot of his horses, and he places them in the right spots. He's a really good trainer, probably better than he gets credit for. Um, Definitely keep an eye on him at this meet, especially with his synthetic runners going to turf and vice versa. He's very good at that.
So there's Mugatu at 20 to 1. And I'll even give you one more right next door before we get to the 11th and final for Barry. I will give you one in the maiden special weight turf race. that's also a 20-1 shot. This is another 2-year-old race. So great horses to throw in. Stable dual lineups, pick fours, pick fives, however you're playing these races. I'm looking at Pet Matt. And same sort of situation. Pet Matt may not be down the line the best horse in this field, but I kind of like the spot for him. They tried to get this horse on the turf in his debut, but it was a muddy track at Aqueduct, and he actually faced a pretty strong group. The winner that day was a horse named Irish Gent. He came back and he was beat just a neck in his next start, earned an 85 Beyer speed figure in a $120,000 stakes race at Aqueduct. So really good effort next time out. Typhoon Fury came back, won a maiden special weight, and then finished third in a stakes race at Aqueduct in a field of 12, ran really well that day. So it was a good effort. I mean, that's a good race that Pet Matt debuted in, behind a couple horses who have come back and run well. It was also a race where he drew the rail and it was on a muddy track. So now he gets to stretch out. He gets to move to the turf. He's actually worked on the turf, and he had 3 siblings. You can take a look at his dam. I think his dam never tried the grass, but he had 3 siblings to try the turf. Stolen Base is a grade 2 winner on the grass. So graded stakes winner, full sibling, half sibling on the turf to Stolen Base. You've got Thrill, who was a winner on the turf. And then the other sibling that tried the turf finished third on it. 3 siblings tried the grass. 2 of them won on it. 1 of them was a graded stakes winner. So plenty of reason why this horse can improve stretching out and trying the turf. I like the race that he exits. He gets off the rail. The blinkers are coming on, and they worked him on the turf recently. I think there are a lot of positive for a horse who's going to be 20-1 for a very live barn who has 7 slices out of 9 horses so far and could very easily be due for a few winners coming up this weekend. I think Pet Matt at a big price, Barry, is a horse I'm tossing into my exotics.
Me as well. You've won me over on that one. I like this horse.
Pet Matt. You know what this looks like? A makeover package, right?
Yes.
You're stretching out,
on.
getting to the turf, the blinkers on. You're coming out of like a strong race. You're moving off the rail. There's like all these little things that you're changing that are all like positive changes. I learned about the makeover package from a very smart man.
That's a good one, especially in the maiden races. It's almost like they knew. They tried it one way, and then they're like, okay, it didn't work that way. We're gonna do what we were gonna do anyway. So just change it all up, and it usually works out, especially with a guy like Jose D'Angelo. He's very crafty.
So a couple 20-1 shots on the Gulfstream Saturday card. Hope they can help you out. And now let's finish things up with the pulpit. 2-year-olds going 7.5 on the turf. Barry, talk to us about this stakes race and where you want to land.
Yeah, this is what would I be if I didn't give out a bailout on my first?
Got to give the
go
bailout.
back,
And a nice stakes race too.
Yeah, this is a really tough race, and the thing about it is I don't think this pace is going to be all that fast. I mean, the horse that probably will want to go to the lead is the 10 Takayo, but that horse isn't that quick. The leads that horse has had were pretty slow, and honestly, I don't really see too many horses that will really want the lead. I mean, Prevent will probably go, but I'm not really enthused on that horse's chances either, at least to finish the race off. Uh, that being said, I'm going to a horse that kind of looks on paper that as speedy is the 3 Double Your Money. I don't understand why this horse isn't actually kind of favored, especially since the other 2 trips that this horse had at Kentucky Downs was way on the outside, when the inside most of that meet was the place to be, and then in the Bourbon was 11 of 12, way out there, didn't have a shot, and this horse made it to the lead, got to the front, and was very competitive. There's a couple of horses coming out of that race that'll probably get a little bit more attention, but I think the post position and where this horse is going to sit, because Junior is very aggressive. He's going to get this horse placed well, and it's really up to the horse to finish it off. Ran a great race first time out against Hedwig, who has turned out to be pretty decent. then wins second time out at Kentucky Downs, kind of against the bias. That stood
Beats
out to me
three
even
next
more.
out winners. You see Thomas Aquinas come back and win a maiden special weight next out. Uncle Truly came back to win a maiden special weight next out. These horses earned like nice speed figures as well. Hawks Creek dropped in and won a maiden 40 and then went over to Fairgrounds and was second in actually a non-winners of two, like a solid race there on the dirt. But quality horses that this one beat at Kentucky Downs. And that was nothing wrong with that Bourbon race last time out. This horse had it's like a
No,
really wide
right,
post and was only beaten a couple lengths,
just up
and even
against it.
speed figure wise, like fit really well.
Right. And I just think that this is the right spot. The post position relief is key. Um, Noted is obviously going to be running late, and with IRAD. But man, it's going to be tough to run down these horses because I don't think they're going to go that fast, and it's tough to do. When there's no pace at Gulfstream, particularly because the turf sometimes gets a little dried out, even mostly in the winter time because it doesn't particularly rain all that much. It's not the rainy season, so it dries out and it gets a little faster. And even with the new turf, I mean, from what I've seen so far, it's playing very nicely in that regard. Not so much like a pool table, but pretty fair. That being said, I'm not enthused with the front runners, and this one's going to sit the second best trip out of that.
I think this horse is a must use in your pick fours and any sort of late exotics. This is the closeout race. One horse who what I was kind of interested into, and I'll probably use in some of the exotics, is actually the maiden right next door, Liam's Journey, who you can just sort of look at his races and overall, and then when you watch them, you'll notice too, like this feels like it's a perfect sort of distance for him. He had legitimate trouble a
Right. He
couple
wants to
starts back.
stretch out.
Yeah, he had like the two races sprinting were just a little short. Like this trip right around a mile is perfect for him. He ran in a pretty tough race. Like he's grade 2 placed. He was in the Pilgrim last time out. Those top two finishers, the horses who were in front of him, they were both in the Breeders' Cup. Agate Road was, only beaten 2.5 lengths in the Breeders' Cup juvenile turf. Fulmino was also in the juvenile turf. So, the horses who finished in front of him were both Breeders' Cup horses. And now he'll get to be in a spot where, people will say, oh, it's a maiden in a stakes race. It doesn't bother me because to me, the sprint rate, like his first two races are kind of irrelevant. Like he ran well enough for me to know that as long as he comes closing in those races, he's a horse who wanted to go a little bit longer anyways. He's working like remarkably well too right now here at Gulfstream, like
Hmm.
really, really fast. So I think they will try to get him, not on the lead, but with an inside draw, get him sitting third or fourth, like saving ground and
Oh
not
yeah.
have to come from way, way out of it in here.
Also, one thing of note with the horse Noted, who's probably going to be probably about 7-5 favorite. Um, he's one of those horses that we talk about all the time where they come back from the Breeders' Cup, and that's usually when they're most
This
vulnerable.
wasn't the plan,
I'm
right?
feeling that. Right, exactly. They wanted
This
to
wasn't
win
the
that
game
race, and
plan.
honestly, I don't know. I don't really understand why they even ran this horse in that race. To be honest with you, um,
It's kind of weird,
and
especially
it's
when,
like I don't know what they
like,
want to do.
well, he went and he had fierceness, obviously, too. Pleasure. It's just funny to now to look back at that race when fierceness jogs like he did in that race. And this is a horse who, like, in any grass race that he showed up, would have been a really logical player.
Yeah, that's why it was crazy to me, and I even talked about maybe even giving him a chance in that race, and then I was like, no way. Fierceness ran the best race, was faster than everybody anyway, um, and just had that one race that looked bad, and people kind of shied away, and I was surprised to the odds that we got. But Noted is just I don't feel right about this horse,
No, he's
coming
the
off
type of
of
play
that
against for
race.
me.
Right, exactly, and I think this is the spot to play against. He probably will run well and kind of be around it, but I just don't want the horse to win.
No, and we'll find 6 to 5 shots that we like better than this every day of the week and twice on Sunday. You know, Noted. He is the horse to beat in here, and Barry and I will try to do that. on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Remember, when you're playing the races at Gulfstream Park, play the races with DRF Bets. DRF Bets will give you a $200 bonus when you sign up and you deposit 200. Boom, all of a sudden you've got 400. They give you 10 free all access past performances. So what Barry and I were just looking at, you get the all access PPs there, 10 of those right off the bat. And then every time you bet $50, you get credit for another one. Everything you need all throughout the Gulfstream Park Championship meet. Barry, buddy, it was so great to hear your voice when we connected on here again. I'm happy you're doing well. Thank you to your family and your loved ones for taking care of you and making sure my good friend is still doing well. Happy to hear your voice, and we'll be back to work each and every week talking some Gulfstream Park, some Santa Anita when they start up, some Tampa, some Oakland. We're going to have a lot of good options now each and every weekend.
Oh man, it's so great. I appreciate the kind words. I'll definitely give a shout to Breezy and my wife. This is one of the greatest things that could have ever happened out of COVID. That wasn't a great situation for anybody, but man, the connections that we've made with each other over that time period and how it spawned into this is just fantastic. I couldn't be happier about it. This is great.
It's been a blast getting to know you and chatting with you every day and just picking your brain, learning from you. And I look forward to many more years of this beautiful friendship together. And hopefully it'll be many more years of finding winners for all of you out there who tune in and who listen and who are hanging out with us each and every week. So as we get ready and we're in the middle of the holiday season now, hope everyone has a fantastic few weeks with your family. But Barry and I will be back next week. We'll be talking some more Gulfstream Park, most likely. Barry, buddy, thank you again. Let's make some money this week, my friend.
Let's go get them.
Folks, if you're listening on the podcast, still a lot more to come. If you're watching videos on social media, thanks so much for hanging out with us. And make sure to follow Barry on social media. Make sure to give myself a follow. And we'll always love talking racing, always love talking sports with you. Here's my good friend Joey Cleveland with that rock version of the Call to Post.